Hey guys, let's go do a video on probably a bunch of stuff. A bunch of crazy stuff happened. It only took two trades. They both worked. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moves I missed, man. There was a bunch of big fades today. Um, so recent theme that we talked about in my Discord was these midday rotations are working. We saw this on Thursday and Friday, right? With a couple different names. MNTS. And then the names on Friday that I can't remember, but either way, ALBT, penny stock, so wasn't shorting it. Definitely wanted to short this push, but I had to get above $1, and I was hoping it would get closer to 110, and I can reserve shares and short all at the same time. And then I felt really dumb because it started fading. So I was like, okay. I was like, whatever. And then, just put an alert, just like any other name. Just put an alert to see if it comes back up to certain levels. And yeah, insane midday rotation, right? And we saw this with another name today, AFRM or something. And anyway, yeah, so this is a lot of these midday rotations, a lot of these super deep midday rotations tend to squeeze high day and get really heavy. So, especially the more aggressive this rotation is, the less support I tend to think it has. Now, I'm still in this trade. I covered some around 120 because it was doing a bunch of crazy stuff. It pretty much it opened out of the downhaul and started pushing up, and I wanted to just de-risk because it had tight halt bands. But this one's pretty simple, I think. This trade is a nice tight risk trade. I was hoping for a rotation on this on, like, for example, BPTH. I managed to avoid all the BPTH. We'll go over that trade towards the end, maybe. But I didn't trade it. I managed to avoid the pre-market action, but yeah. So crazy high day squeeze, midday rotation. These tend to top out after the liquidity level gets pushed. Now it's kind of soaking. It's doing this really weird walk down soak. So I mean, who knows? Maybe in the I'll probably cover some into end of day, and then I wouldn't be surprised for some after hours shenanigans on this thing, but especially with the lower high paint. But yeah, this is a simple kind of fake 5-minute flag, right? Bunch of volume comes in, new high, new high, new high. I used to take these shorts, these like triple high day swipes, like the first one, the second one, the third one. I guess it's rotating. I have my risk in, it's fine. By the way, tight halt bands on stocks that close below 75 cents. I believe after 3:30 p.m. market time, the halt bands get wider. So I actually might get stopped out. So the halt band right now is, I think, in the 150s or something like that. But if this goes straight up, I'll just get stopped out. It's not really that big of a deal. That's why you take some profits, right? Anyway, fake 5-minute flag. Nice, clean walk down, right here. Clean walk down. Even got some, shorts chasing the downhaul, right? Getting bad averages. And, yeah, I mean, my risk is at 1.4, so I guess we'll see what happens. But, anyway, yeah, nice aggressive initiation. I always there was a big ask at 128 holding this down. And I definitely wanted these lower highs to get pushed. I was looking at 128, I was looking at 130. Got, this is a classic type of long trap candle. If it stalls, if the stock's extended, if you think it has a good chance of being bearish, good place to short. Putting in another lower high. Look at that. Didn't get stopped out. Another lower high. Market closes in 8 minutes, so we'll see what happens, I guess. But yeah, it downhalted and started doing a bunch of manipulated, soaky stuff, right? Usually, if this is going to long trap, like, it might give one pop, but it should roll over and die. I was almost expecting, like, a lot of times when you get these long trapping moves at 3 p.m., they can fade into the close. I was really hoping for something like that, but apparently this thing is just, like, ultra rigged, which is fine. But yeah, I don't really like to see grindy walk. You can see the lower high walk down right here. Walk down, lower high, lower high, lower high, walk down. Super grindy, super slow, not really, more of like long shakeouts rather than true panic selling, right? So not really what you want to see on a stock up 300% after doing a super crazy, insane, long trap move below high day. So anyway, The other trade I took was actually an MBOT long. Big brain on the long, small brain on the short, which I missed. I actually just have this is my screenshot from, I'll post the final screenshot on my Twitter. This is the one I took from my Discord room. But yeah, this one was really interesting because usually you would absolutely want to be bearish bias, like massive up only extension like this. It's usually not worth being long bias these things. And the reason it's usually not worth it is because the reward potential to the downside is much greater, right? So, which I ended up making like 30 cents on this long. I sold a little bit more right after this, and that was about it. And then I missed a short. In this case, this was also off the 1 minute 50, but I didn't think it was going to long trap because of the lower high paint, right? Sometimes when you have very bullish chart paint, it could change your thinking about like, well, do I think this fake 5 minute flight pattern is going to work? Because here's what I think about this, right? Like, stock is pushing on increasing volume, increasing volume, increasing volume, new high, new high, new high, new high. I consider that bullish. That's actually a bullish factor. The bearish factor is it's going up only. The bullish factor is that it's accumulating a bunch of shares, increasing volume, making new highs, right? And I believe this was on SSR, right? So we're getting, actually, no, it wasn't. This stock was on SSR, ALBT. But what do you call it? Yeah, so, I'm looking at this. I see the big volume come in. I was like, well, I want to wait for some type of kind of structure that I could short into. And, I consider this pop like too early, right? I'm on very, very high increasing volume stocks like this, right? A lot of times these rotations that come, less than like 5-10 minutes after high day are kind of too early. I find that they don't really have a lot of success. They usually contribute the chart paint, right? And I used to take them all the time, and now I don't, right? So I was like, all right, I don't want to take that. It's a little early, man. I kind of wanted some more structure. A lot of long trend moves happen. I mean, look at my, just go rewind the video back to my ALBT trade. This trade was at 301 and high day was at 221, right? So you're talking 40 minutes. I usually like waiting a little longer on strong plays, making new highs, increasing volume to make a read, right? I don't really want, I lost a lot of money early in my career trying to read the top, always trying to read the top, and I just found it to be really inconsistent. Anyway, and then it starts popping back up, and I was like, there's nothing really, there was a bunch of bids down here. So that's a big thing. We'll open up. The book on this was a lot more clean because there was like, I'm not talking one layer of bids. There was like this thing was bid city all the way. You see, there was a million bids on this thing. So the bids were a bit concerning. And the only trade I thought about taking was this rotation. There was like this mini walk down here, very tight walk down. It had an initiation that stalled, and I debated getting in, and I was like, it's not really my favorite. It's a little grindy. There's bids down here, and there's lower high chart paint. So lower high, lower high, lower high. And then Mikey Underdog, and I had a good conversation last week. Mikey's a great long trader, and he's really good at holding through. Like, he'll build a position here, per se, or like in this area, and then he's really good at holding through these knife candles, right? And it makes sense why, as a long trader, these candles are the most important candle. It's the same reason why, as a short trader, you're analyzing the squeezes, you're analyzing the pushes. That's where you're really looking, right? Looking to make entries, looking to manage a risk, looking to see what the reaction is. Like, that's where your eyes are. Your eyes are on the aggressive moves to the upside, right? And now, going long, it's the same thing in the downside. Like, so I wasn't building a position here long, but if you were, like, it's really common to see these types of dump candles. And what Mikey always tells me is like, yeah, on the penny names, I'll hold through these. But usually what he wants to see is, he doesn't really care about the selling on the initial candle. What he cares is about the reaction afterwards, right? And he'll talk about things about analyzing the tape, analyzing order size. But really, essentially what he's trying to tell me is like, what is there continuous selling after the dump comes through, right? Because what's actually quite bullish on these manipulated stocks and in low floats and penny land and stuff like that is when there isn't an immediate reaction. Because look at this is a high volume, high day clear out, right? An immediate, 3 immediate red candles in a row, right? Most people are going to be super bearish that. They're going to be bearish at price action and feeling a lot of FOMO, that type of thing. But here, I thought this was a more interesting read because A, the 1 minute 50 was catching up, so soaking right on the 1 minute 50. There's heavy lower high chart paint. The big bullish volume. And I decided just not to take this just because, again, I thought it was a little early. I was concerned with the bids and the volume. So by not being short, I'm leaving myself open for a possible long rotation. I know, and there's a few people short this ticker in my room, and I was like, well, I was like, the 1 minute 50 needs a break. Like, this needs a break. And then, shout out to we call it, a guy named Parth in my room. He mentioned that MBOT had a high volume VWAP day at about 180, 185 the last time it ran in December, right? And Mikey talks about that a lot. This is kind of on the long side, if a stock is above a high volume daily view, so you open up the daily, you see what the VWAP closed at on the daily for the high volume day it traded. This case was like 185 back in December. And if a stock is above that and setting up, on the chart, that could be an important support level on the daily. And you'll see Mikey talk about it. He'll draw like boxes like this on his videos. And he's like, this is a possible, demand area, right? Because of where all those shares are traded way back when on the last high volume day. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. So it's all kind of lining up, like the lower high paint. And then I always like to wait for the second test. So here's the first test. Here's the second test. And then you can wait for a rotation. I like to read ass. Sometimes you'll see them stack ass down here. There'll be like 10, 15, 20,000 shares. And they'll take it all out and initiate the stock, right? So I was kind of longing into these. There's an ask at, I believe, 191, some 190, 192. I was longing into that. But in terms of profit taking, again, I probably made like 30 cents on this play overall. Like my final sell average was like 220 or something like that. You got to take profits quickly because you're longing a second leg on a stock that's already massively extended, and it could work. But the downside, which is why it's often just to be short bias up here, the downside is it often doesn't push very far, right? If it works, there's odds it doesn't work. I thought this had enough bullish factors going for it to work. It did work, but the problem is the lack of continuation once it squeezes past its painted level, right? Especially, this is really bearish. It's hyperextended, no consolidation, just straight up only, and that's a bearish factor, And now, and I notice a lot of these longs at the top that tend to work. Tend to also just not have continuation, even if they work. Because now you have higher lows to crack through later on, right? So the big miss, we'll pull up this chart. Hey, I didn't get a... this could do some after-hours shenanigans. So, hold up a second. I'm gonna pause the video and then... And I'm back. So you see here... Sorry, I had to take a little break to manage ALBT. So anyway, here's the 1 minute 50 breakdown. By the way, this breakdown was extremely similar to BPPH in the pre-market. If we go to BPTH, whatever it's called, in the pre-market, we also had very similar high volume up only, up new highs, new highs, new highs, consistent increasing volume from the time before. And we got lower high paint, big volume, relative volume knife candle down to the 1 minute 50. Again, it's what the reaction is, right? I missed this long. I actually felt dumb for not taking it on the second test here. The second test rotation right here in the low 380s. I saw they had a 379, 380 asking, and I was like, man, I could have just longed straight into that and that type of thing. But we ended up getting a high day clear out. Now, they did something really interesting. They actually threw up a billion bids on this thing to shove this up. And then they actually just took them all out. They said the high day clear out and went sold. And there's a lot of bids on this thing that just sold straight down, zero bounce. And I'm not usually a big fan of the 930 high day clear out. But the part of the chart I wanted to focus on was the lower high paint into the increasing volume, lower high paint, knife into the 1 minute 50, and you rotate. And yeah, that was nice. Same thing and I noted this when this happened. I was like, hey guys, this is the same candle as type of candle as BBTH at 9:09 in the morning. It's the same type of dump candle to the 1 minute 50. So yeah, they had 190s, the low 190s really tight, and you could see the volume in the ask coming. Always pay attention to what level's kind of getting held down. And I want to see if that level starts getting, like, after the second test starts getting eaten into for a rotation. So it was nice, but then what happened is they did another 1 minute 50 rotation. I always mention, and this was a huge miss for me, because I thought they were playing a bunch of games on the ask and the bid, where they were throwing up like 100K bids and 200K ask, and I thought they were playing a bunch of games. Kind of overthought it. I should just stick with the chart. Because what I know is if the 1 minute 50 works, if you get a 1 minute 50 long that works, and then you start to get another 1 minute 50 long that initiates like this, a lot of times when a market maker abuses the same MA as support, it gets back to my pattern replication video. It tends to not work, and I knew that, and especially after the secondary push didn't work, right? All right. It's kind of the same thing here. How the secondary breakdown doesn't happen, so this is strong. The secondary push doesn't happen, so it's weak, right? I always pay attention to those things on a 1 minute chart. And yeah, it ended up going straight down only into an offering. So I made a whopping 30 cents on my long, and I missed a $1 short. So that was great. Anyway, we'll just open the book on that just so you can see really fast what it'll look like. Wonderfully, ALBT did not squeeze 1.4. Doesn't mean it can't do it later though. So. Maybe I'll hold that, see if it goes down in the after hours. But this was about MOBT. We'll just go to that move, right? Here's the breakdown. Here's the lower high paint. They actually had this 90,000 share ask at 210 holding it down. So massive ask holding it down. Here's the bids, right? Not a lot of bids up here, but there were bids down here, and I saw the increasing volume, and I was a little afraid. By the way, BPTH was also bids. And guess what? Went straight down. So sometimes my reasoning will cause me to miss trades a lot. I always have some reasoning why I don't want to take something. But I think that's better than what I used to do, which was take everything and I would be in every fade, but also I'd have a lot more losses because I would get trapped. So there's trade-offs to, like, oh, there's too many bids, I'm going to avoid it. Well, sometimes the bids get taken out. And sometimes there's too many bids, you avoid it, and you get a really nice long setup and you make money on it, right? Because I've been in these trades. I've been in these pops, right? I've been in these pops. I just thought it was too early to hit this. I thought there was a lot of bids down here, and I just didn't want to hit it that early. And they ended up lower high painting it for a nice 1 minute 50 soak and rotation. So that was that long. Here's that. This is a 213,000 share bid they put up here. Here's that 1 minute 50 rotation, right? That we could have shorted. Now you might ask, well, this isn't 45 minutes away from this, right? Why? Actually, it kind of is. Look at that. This happens at 11. This high day happened at 10:40, so that's actually a decent amount of time. But the higher something goes, the more and more bearish something gets, right? You can act. I think I covered this on my FFIE video. A lot of times, a lot of this depends on the chart and the volume, all types of stuff, but you're talking a big up-only move with a secondary squeeze, right? With a bunch of higher lows built into it. Quite simply, in this case, given how aggressive the squeeze is, the more bearish it gets. The higher it goes, the more bearish it gets, and you can use your judgment for how long you want to wait, right? I thought this was a prime short trap candidate, just because they kept doing these violent pullbacks. increasing volume, lots of bids. Look at it. Look at the bid support here. Look at the bid support here. So different. Bid support on the short trap and bid support after the short trap gets executed, right? Huge difference, right? And that's why it's also another reason to sell, right? That's also another reason to sell. If you're longing this and bids start thinning up, you got to get out because you get not only could you give away long profits, but you might miss out on the short, which could be even more profitable. So, anyways, that's all for today. I don't know what the hell this thing's doing, so guess I'll keep an eye on it for a little bit. Hopefully it cracks. It might not. So, anyways, that's it for today. I got to edit this video now, and yeah, information out below about the Discord, longing and shorting. I just took 2 trades, but a lot of people in the room take a lot more trades, and we talk about it and have a good time. So feel free to join. There's also a lot of information there about how I trade and a lot of screenshots of setups and my analysis of certain plays and that type of thing. So check that out if you can. So anyways, that's it for today. Yeah, so have a good one and see you.